everyone, in this video we're looking at volume. In our last video we touched on surface area, so now we're moving on to volume. And once we finish volume, we're going to go through a couple of questions, CSEC questions on measurements. So volume is described as the amount of space that a substance or shape occupies. So when you drink soft drinks like Coke or even juices, Fruta, you notice that the volume of liquid is given on the bottle. Normally it's given at the bottom of the bottle. So for example, 500 milliliter of Coca-Cola, or you have your 1 liter of water, and so on, right? So check it out next time you're having a drink, one of those juices or Cokes or water, right? Now, you would have met, at some point you would have met volume of a cube and cuboid at least, right? So we're going to go through that along with some other shapes, right? Now, volume of a cube. By now, we know what a cube looks like. So the volume of a cube, since all the sides in a cube are the same because it's all squares and faces, it's side by side by side, right? Or we could just write it as S to represent side cubed, right? Or if it's just easy for you to remember side times side times side, that's perfectly fine. So let's look at this example here. So we have a cube, and the length of one side of the cube is 3. So then the volume, again, is side by side by side. So therefore, it'll be 3 by 3 by 3, which is equal to 27. Remember, its volume, so we cm cube, right? Or you could use this formula where you use side cube, right? Same answer you get. So volume of a cube, side times side times side, or side cube, right? Remember, when you cube in a number, you have to multiply that number by itself 3 times. Just like when you square in a number, you multiply that number by itself 2 times, right? All right. So let's look at now volume of a cuboid. So volume of a cuboid, again, you would have met this at some point. So the volume of a cuboid is length by width by height. So volume of a cuboid, length times width times height. So, in this example we have down here, the volume of the cuboid, our length is 10, our width is 5, and our height is 4. So the volume here, length times width times height. So my volume is 10 times 5 times 4, which is 200 cm cubed, right? So volume of a cube, just to recap, side times side times side, volume of a cuboid, length times width times height. Pretty simple. Now, it should be noted that you must know the formula to find the volume of a cube and cuboid. You must know those two. Because, remember, we have talked about the formula sheet they get in the paper 1 and paper 2 for CSEC. You don't get the formula for volume of a cube and cuboid, because these are two basic formulae that you're expected to know, right? So just make sure you know those two. So now we're moving on to volume of a cylinder. And moving forward now, these formulae you will find in the formula sheet. Luckily, right? So volume of a cylinder is pi r squared by height. So pi r squared by height. And if you have to break it down, that's really pi times r squared, well, r squared, which is r by r, times height. But this here, this is what they give you in the formula sheet. I'm going to take a look at the formula sheet as well. Right? Now, what you need to know is a cylinder, the base of a cylinder, if you look at the base of the cylinder here, right? It's a circle. So essentially, the formula pi r squared by height is really, the volume of a cylinder is really the formula for the area of a circle, pi r squared, and then we just multiply by the height of the cylinder. Right? So something good to note. So volume is really the area of the circle times height. Right? Pi r squared times height. So now, let's look at the volume of a cylinder, an example. So here now, we have the height is given to us. The height is 10 cm. And we are given here, this is a circle at the top, but this is a diameter, right? So our diameter is 14. It's very important diameters, remember we went through that. The radius is half the diameter, so we know the radius will be 7 cm. So you want to find the volume, pi r squared by height. So that is pi, we could use pi as 22 over 7 since it wasn't specified if to use 22 over 7 or 3.14. So that's 22 over 7 times r by r, which would be 7 over 1 times 7 over 1, and then multiplied by h, the height, which is 10. Right? And then just cancel the 7s, right? So you're going to get 22 times 7 times 10 remaining, and you will get 1,540 cm cubed. It's all about really knowing the formula, knowing to put in for pi 22 over 7, r squared, that's radius squared. So 7 times 7, and then the height is 10, right? Very, very simple. These two formulae as well, you will see it in the formula sheet, and we'll actually do more questions. When we do the CSEC questions, you'll see how we apply some of these, the volume for prism one in particular. So volume for prism, a cube is a prism, a cuboid, a cylinder, and all those things. To find the volume for prism, again, this formula is given in the formula sheet. It is a volume is equal to area by height. So area, the area is really the area of the cross section. So remember, I talked about the cylinder, right? My diagram wouldn't be the best, but the cross section of a cylinder is the circle, right? That's the shape at the end, right? So the shape at the end is the circle. So that's the area of the, so remember I mentioned volume of a cylinder is the area of the circle times height. So for prism, any prism is normally the shape at the end times the height, right? So, sorry, the area of the shape, that area of the shape at the end times the height. So that's the area of the area at the end is the cross section. And then for a volume of a right pyramid is a third area by height. So the area here is the area of the base, and well, h is always height, right? And again, you will see in the formula sheet, they give you all this information, right? All right, so let's look at this question. January 2002. Very old question. The diagram above, not drawn to scale, shows a water tank in the shape of a right prism. Now we know that they said right prism, but we know that we could see, when I said a prism, it could be a cube, cuboid, cylinder, and so on, right? So this prism here is a cuboid, right? So that's something you must know, obviously, how the shapes look, right? They gave you the length AB 25 cm, AD is 40 cm, and the length of the tank is 1.2 meters. You see how they give us centimeter and centimeter here? Right away, we should change our meters to centimeters just to have all units the same, right? So at the side somewhere, change your meters to centimeters. To change from meters to centimeters, a big unit to a smaller unit, you have to multiply by 100, right? So 1.2 times, that'll be 120 cm, right? So you could write it in here, 120 cm. So you know, right? Because a lot of children get tied up and just multiply things and forget to change, have everything in the same unit, right? All right, first things first, we want to find the volume of the tank. And remember, volume is a cuboid, so it's length by width by height, right? So let's just go down here, have it already set up nicely here. So this part acts as to calculate the volume of the tank, right? And we know volume equals length by width by height, right? And I mentioned here that 1.2, which we changed already, is really 120 cm, right? And then once you convert it, you just multiply the three numbers, right? So you get 120 by, I'll go back up, by 25 by the 40, right? 25 by the 40, and that's how we get our volume. Very, very big number, right? So again, cuboid, yeah, they gave you the length, the width, and the height, easy to find the volume. Now part 2, it says the depth of the water in the tank. We want to find the depth of the water in the tank when it contains 45 liters. Now let's go through this. In this part, we're required to calculate the depth of the water when it contains 45 liters. Now, we are working, our first piece, we had a cm cube. And I would have mentioned at the beginning of these measurement videos, if we have 45 liters, we should change it since we're already working with cm cube. Change it to cm cube. Remember, 1 liter is 1,000 cm cube. 45 liters would be 45 times 1,000, which is 45,000 cm cube. Right? Now, we are required to find the depth. Depth is height, right? Now, we want to know the height when the container has 45 liters. So right now, the volume is just 45 liters. This volume now is 45 1000 cm cube. And that is equal to the length remains the same and the width. So volume equals length by width by height. Our new volume is the 45,000. So we put that in. Our length remains the same, which is the 120. The width remains the same. We want to find the height. And now from now, it's just like an algebraic equation. So you get 45,000 and you multiply 120 by 25, we get 3,000 times the height. And just bring across the 3,000 here times h equals 45,000. Not to, look, I know it's a little bit jumbled up here, but it's right here in the notes as well, right? So then the height will be equal to 45,000. Opposite to multiply by 3,000 will be division by 3,000. So our height is 15 cm, right? Height or the depth, right? Now, it sounds hard, but it's not as hard as you think it is, right? And now we have another question, made June 2015, number 6. The diagram below, not drawn to scale, shows two cylindrical water tanks, A and B. Tank B has a base diameter, so tank B has a base diameter of 8 and height 5. Both tanks are filled with water. Calculate the volume of tank B. So I will do it at the side here. Volume of tank B. So just to recall, again, these formulae are given in the formula sheet for the cylinder, right? So pi r squared by height, right? If you didn't remember, that's okay. The formula is given to you, right? And I'll go through that as well. If I don't get to go through this video, I will go through it in another video. And then you said to use pi as 3.14. So 3.14 times r squared. So as r is, now our 8 is the diameter. So my radius is 4, right? So that's 4 by 4 r8, which is 5. And now you're just going to use a calculator and work that out, right? And you get 251.2 meters cube. And now we're going to look at part 2 now. Part 2, if the area of the base of A, so the area of the base, remember it's a circle, so the area of the circle is pi r squared. Let's write that on one time. The area is 314. So the area of the base is 314 meters squared. Calculate the length of the radius. We know pi is 3.14 times r squared. 3.14 times r squared is equal to 314. So r squared is equal to 314 divided by 3. What that is. And that is 100. Now this is r squared is equal to 100. But we don't want r squared, we want r. So opposite of squaring is square root. So our radius would be 10 meters. So our radius, 10. Cool. And now the last piece. Tank A holds 8 times as much water as tank B. So tank A is equal to 8 times tank B. Right? So now we know the volume of tank B, which is, let's go back up, 251.2. So the tank A volume is 8 times 251.2. This will be the volume of A, right? And let's just work that out. So the volume of tank A, when you multiply it, is 2009.6 meters cube. We want to find the height of tank. Remember, tank A is a cylinder, right? So volume equals pi r squared by height. So the volume is 2009.6 times pi, which is equal to pi, which is 3.14, times our radius is 10, so that's 10 squared times the height. Now, let's just work it out now quickly. So now we have, I was going to switch the sides, right? So we have 3.14 times 10 squared, which is 100, times h, which is 3.14 times 100 would be 114 times h, which is equal to 2009.6. So h is 2009.6 divided by, and when we work out that, we get 6.4. So again, go over the question, pause when you need to, go over it. It's actually pretty easy. Just need to take your time, see what information they give you and what you want to find. Just want to show you quickly how we have all the formulae in the formula sheet. Volume for prism, volume for cylinder, volume for right pyramid, circumference, arc length, area for circle, area for sector, area for trapezium, area for triangle, right? You have everything that you need for measurements. You just need to know the basics, and that's it. Alright, so I'll see you on my next video. Take care.